Welcome back to Hasbro Hide. In search of accuracy in our 6.5 Grendel, I decided to do something I just normally would never do. We're going to lap this receiver. A lot of people say they have good results on lapping and bedding them, etc. And you know, I just keep getting these occasional flyers, and that's supposedly supposed to help this sort of thing. So we're going to try it. And we're going to use this Brownell's receiver lapping tool, and then the Brownell's 600 grit garnet lapping compound. And so yeah, never done this on an AR before, so we're going to try it and we'll see what our results are. Right, here's our tools. It comes from Brownell's. It's all in a heavy coat of oil, and that's all nice. But never having done with this, I just found a quick lesson. So it only goes in this far, and the reason it goes in that far only is because it's hitting the spring and detent feature on our dust cover. So we're going to have to take the dust cover off. Not a big deal, just a pain, you know, you're dealing with that spring if you've done it before. So we'll take that off and then we'll continue on. Alright, so I've now applied a little bit of the Brownell's lapping compound with a Q-tip onto the face, and I use my finger to kind of smooth it. You want to keep it off of this, of course, nothing gets up into here. And then once you start polishing, I guess the idea is to keep that in there so you can never pull the lapping compound in by moving that back and forth. So we'll go ahead and begin this. Now we're using 600 grit, so it's going to take a while. It's going to take a long while. They said in the instructions 180, but most reviews online said use the 600 garnet. And so we'll just let it go for a good bit. They said 10-15 seconds with 180 grit, so it's going to be a lot longer than that with the 600 grit. So we'll just apply a little bit of pressure, trying to keep straight down that shaft, and then let it polish. Not sure how well you can see that, but we're starting to true up that face there after a few seconds. I don't know, maybe 30 seconds of turning that. So we're going to continue just a few minutes more and see if we can get, it says to get 80% of that face squared up. And so we'll continue to lap as we go, just letting it, you know, light pressure and letting it go like you saw before. Alright, so we've trued this face up to where it's pretty nice and consistent and shiny all the way around. Cleaned out all the oil and any possible contamination, grit, metal, whatever from the inside of the receiver, and re-lubed the receiver with the exception of here. We've cleaned that. And so now we're going to put on blue Loctite onto the barrel extension, so it kind of seals around here. A lot of people use different ones, the green, I forget the numbers and all, but I've used this a lot, this blue Permatex version of Loctite, and it's a little easier to remove if you have to. And so that's one thing that kind of worries me about putting this kind of thing on here, and I've never bedded them in an AR before. I bedded a lot of rifles, especially muzzleloaders, but never an AR. And so, you know, worried about getting it off without just having to apply a lot of heat and kind of destroying it. So, or the paint anyway. So I'm going to put a little bit of this blue Loctite on here and use it to seal up and kind of take up any gaps in there. And then hopefully we have it true and to where it can't move or float around. So we'll see and get some of this on here. You see I'm putting it on there and just kind of smooth it around a little bit. Again, I'm no expert at this. I've done bedding before, but like I say, not on AR. So we're going to try this and see how well it works. And hopefully it's not a big mistake. That'll cause me a lot of pain later on. Okay, see it squeezing out there a little bit, so we'll just clean that up. Don't want to put that all over our threads particularly. I mean, I guess it would be okay, but you'll definitely be using heat then to probably take it off at that point, or a lot of force anyway. And okay, so there we go. So now I'm going to put some arrow shell on the threads. I've got some in, and so we'll put arrow shell, I think it's 64 on the threads here, and we'll be able to tighten our barrel nut back up and put our gun back together. Now we'll continue on with our 6.5 Grendel load development. Now we had just lapped the receiver, and so we want to test at least a load where it was and see if we continue to get flyers. So we're going to load 10 rounds at this Accurate 2520 27.7 grains because it was grouping pretty well at 95 yards, and then we threw one flyer. And so we'll see. That's supposed to be one of the things this can help fix when you lap and bed it, so we'll test it that way. And we'll load 10 rounds, like I say, of that. And that was loaded at 2.252 overall length. So we're also going to bump this up to 2.260 and test 10 rounds exactly like it was when we shot this target, and then 5 more rounds at a slightly longer overall length and see if we can notice a difference. Well, then we're going to continue on and load now with Power Pro Varmint. Now, I've never loaded with the Power Pro series, and so I'm kind of excited to do that. There's several good powders in that have gotten really good reviews and good results, and so we're going to test that and see. We'll stick with our CCI 41 primers, and then we have our ELD 6.5 millimeter 130 grain ELD match bullets, and so that's what we'll be shooting out of it. Our brass is Hornady twice fired and annealed, and so I put it in this just to sort of remind me. I have an uncle that has been through a house fire a while back, and this is one of the things that survived, and it's actually sterling silver. And so he sent it to me, and so later on this year, probably in the fall, once I finish another flintlock rifle that I'm working on finishing now, I'll start another and maybe a flintlock pistol, and we're going to use this to make inlays. And so I just thought I'd mention it, so if you guys like to see custom built muzzleloading rifles, stay tuned for that. So twice fired Hornady brass annealed, already have installed our primers, and so we're going to start with our 2520 powder. Now we're going to just do this one by hand because for 10 rounds is not really worth messing with the Charge Master. So we'll use the Charge Master Light for the Power Pro Varmint. So we'll start here and we'll go to 27.7. It shouldn't take too much here. So 25.42, now we'll just trickle up till we hit 27.7. There's 26. Gotta probably put more in with the scoop. Alright, 27.72. So that's good. Let's check it here on our Brifit. 27.68. Yeah, 27.70. So just double check them, make sure they weigh the same. And 27.72. So within 0.02, and that's perfectly fine. So I'll continue to load these up, and then we'll come back when we start loading the Varmint. Continue on now with our load development, and we're working with now Power Pro Varmint, and so only data I found other than different sites or people posted what they're using is from Sierra, and for 130 grain bullets using this powder. So their maximum is 28.5, and so we're going to stay away from that. We're going to go to 28 and then go down in 0.3 increments down to 26.8, and I'll put those up in the screen so you can see them here, what we're doing. And so already working through this, we're now at 27.7 and working our way up to our maximum of 28. And the RCBS Charge Master seems to like this powder. It's pretty fine granular powder, and it charges it pretty good. So our target was 27.7, it reached 27.68. Check it here on the Brifit, and it says 27.70. So within 0.02, close enough. And so we'll continue on and load these up, and then we'll seat the bullets. Before we load the bullets, I thought I'd show you something that's been happening. Now, up in the hide, I haven't turned the air conditioning on just to keep the air movement down with these scales being 0.02. And if you can see that, I don't know if you can see it or not, it's showing 82 degrees up here. And as I've been using these scales, when I did all the testing before, it was maybe 70. Okay, it was cool, nice up here. But as it's heating up, both of these scales now are starting to have a little bit of a drift issue. Now this one has done like the little cheapy ones, the Home Geek type scale I had here before, where just occasionally, all of a sudden it'll display 0.3 or so grains high, and you have to re-zero to re-tear it. and then it'll read right. And then the Brifit is going back and forth about 0.04 grains. Now, that's still pretty good, but nonetheless, that's what's showing up. And yet the RCBS is still hitting it every time, and so real happy with what it's doing. But the other scales here, as they are really hot, not just warmed up, they've both been on now for close to an hour, are being a little bit unstable, drifting slightly. And so there it says, okay, we're at 28 and we were within 0.02 grains from the RCBS dispensing, and then you see 28.06, which is fine. That's close enough for what we're doing here. And so I decided to show that because it could be these scales then are accurate and repeatable, more so in certain ambient temperature ranges. And so I may do some testing in that later on, but just thought I'd mention that because that behavior seems to have shown up here. Once you re-zero them, then they seem to be fine. I've even gone back and recalibrated some, and that didn't seem to change the effect of it. So, okay, we'll finish up these last couple charges, and then we'll seat the bullets. Seating our bullets now on the initial rounds of Accurate 2520, and these are the 27.7 grain rounds, and they are seated to 2.252. And so we're actually right on that money. I didn't have to change anything. It's where it was set up before. It's 2.252 to 2.253 is all the variation I'm getting. These ELD match seem to be pretty consistent. It's a new box. Maybe that helps a little bit. But yeah, they're pretty consistent. So we'll finish these last two, and that'll give it our first 10. And then we're going to switch to 2.260 and check and see then what does overall length do on the same round. Just a very crude test here, but we're going to move at 8,000, which should be pretty significant. So in our gauge here, or in our die, let's turn this thing around so we can see it better on the witness mark. There it is. Alright, so we can see on our die, we want to go back up 8,000, so we can go, that's 5, and we'll go to 8 roughly there, and we'll see how we do. .259.5, I'd say close enough. Check another one. That one, as soon as I say things, a little bit longer, 2.26.5. So we'll check all these. I may have to lower this just slightly because of the bullet bearing, but we'll see. Yeah, 2.261. So we may end up being just a little bit long. It's no big deal. We can shorten that up. I've not measured the actual magazine maximum, but the standard would be 2.260. Yeah, 2.261. So we'll lower this down about 1,000, reseat all 5 of those, and then we'll move into seating the PowerPro Varmint. Loading these last ones of the Accurate 2520, I loaded it and didn't catch it till I took it out, but this bullet has a big scuff on it, and I don't know what that's from. It's from the factory. I mean, I just pulled it out and just loaded it. It hadn't traveled into the case that much, but a big scuff there. So this is one where we're loading them a bit long. I've marked the case so I can track it and keep it separate, but we'll see if that has an effect at 100 yards. All right, now we move into the PowerPro Varmint. Now, being a different powder, different case capacity, I can tell you this one is all the way down to about there in the shoulder. And so that one should not have a problem. We'll load one here, just look at the overall length, but shouldn't be a problem. And so we'll seat one here and just double check it. Then we'll go up to the highest powder loads, which should not be compressed. Yeah, we're right on our number, 2.260, 2.261. So that didn't have an effect at all, which shouldn't be the case. Now, this is the highest at 28 grains. Now, the Sierra book shows the 28.5 being compressed, but there is quite a bit more powder, but we still should be good because it's only maybe to right there, maybe about right there on the case, so we should be fine with this going down in there. So let's seat a couple at 28 and just see if our overall length is going to change at all as we move up in powder. 2.258, so I say we're definitely going to be good. We'll see another one here and take a look. .259.5. So we're going to be good at the top end now. So we'll finish seating all those rounds. You could just sort of check. I got this Lyman ammo checker. I don't know if I've shown us using this or not. Simple little thing to make sure you meet at least the SAMI specs. And so you see here, totally flush, just perfect all the way across there. So our ammo is good. I've checked it a few times before, just didn't show it. But that's a quick way just to double check it's going to at least meet factory specs. So we'll finish seating all these and then we'll see you at the range. All right, we're back in from the range, and you'll see the target and shots going off above us here. I'll put this down the lower side so you can watch what goes on with the target. But the first few shots are really, really wild and crazy, and we'll talk about why there. But I thought I'd show you the brass here real quick. So these first couple rows here are accurate 25-20 at 27.7 grains, and they were not an issue before, and of course that has repeated. Then there are no issues, ejector smears or marks or any signs of pressure on the primer. They're all nice and rounded and everything looks good. And then as we move up in our Varmint, then from 26.8 all the way up to our max of 28.0, again, no issues there at all. Primers are still good, no smears, no marks at all on that brass, and you know, primers aren't flattened either. So good signs for all of our pressure. If you remember on the Sierra load data, it goes up to 28 grains for Varmint, and so we'll explore from 27.7, where you'll see the accuracy we're getting there, on up to at least 28 and see where we go with pressure signs and velocities. But the higher end so far, the higher end of the range I've done here, is really good in Varmint. Again, I'm gonna let the shooting range shots just go on. It was really, really windy that day, and so the camera beside the benches just wasn't going to work out. It's too loud. So I just left the range camera downwind, and we could see the impacts. And so that's all I have displaying up above. But here is our target from before that we started with our first few rounds, as you see on the left-hand side of the target and bottom left, of accurate 25. 20 and 27.7 grains. So shooting a group like this and having one fly up there like that, and a similar kind of thing here, decent grouping and one go off. I was hoping that the receiver, screwing of the receiver, truing of the receiver, and bedding it would help. And well, by the first few shots you're going to see on the next target, well, that really wasn't the case. And so take that out of the way, and now we can take a look at this one and get an idea here up close a little bit of what was going on. And so the first few shots were really wild. They were way low, like 6 inches low and left. That's a result of squaring the receiver, taking the barrel out, retorquing it, bedding it, and retorquing it to a different value. Everything, point impact, changes. And so it just surprised me that much, but hey, I guess it, you find out it's what it does. So it's literally what it did. So then I walked the bullets back up here, and finally I got in this range before we started shooting these. Now these are still not good, and here, not good. So we had these three in a row, but this one was really way off down here, and you can watch as the bullets progress up there, and you can get the idea how bad it was. But still, okay, so this is, yeah, this is not particularly good. Now, is it worse than the other target? Well, they didn't group as well initially, but the barrel had been cleaned. And so it's fouling the barrel. I probably should have shot another 15 or 20 rounds before taking these repeat shots to check them out. So, yeah, maybe I'll come back to this load, maybe I won't, and I'll tell you why I won't. So this is the first load at 26.8. So again, I did have 15 rounds here, another 5 rounds here before I shot this. And so at the first 5 rounds at Varmint at 26.8, yeah, it's really good. I mean, really good. It's better. Okay, so you can see it's, let's see, what was that one? That was 1.2, excuse me, 0.68 MOA. No, I'm sorry, I'm reading wrong. I'm sorry, folks, I'm giving you the mean one. It's 1.7 MOA here. So, yeah, you know, better some of the previous targets with this barrel and powders, but still not great. So let's go then to the next same load here, and we go to 26.8. And so now we see it's a 1.483. So, you know, maybe a little me, but maybe we're just trying to get the barrel fouled a little bit, and it starts to get better. So as we move on up, we'll pan over here and look at the rest of this target, then we can see things got considerably better. And so it really starts to tighten up. We get to 27.1, and we're at, oh, this one did definitely have a flyer, and I need to talk about those two. Definitely had a flyer, and so that one went to 2.78 MOA. Terrible. Now, what was the flyer? And some of these could have been due to this too. Well, I showed in the previous section of this video scuffed bullets. In the first 25 rounds, I found at least 6 that I could see scuffs on the bullet, really heavy scuffs on the bullet that I didn't catch when I was loading like an idiot. I should have, you know, you just don't think you open a brand new box, everything looks good. But when you load these things and it's scored well above the case mouth, yeah, something's wrong. And so that was the case. Now I went back through and went through about half the remaining bullets and didn't find any more. So maybe I worked my way down through the box, and I don't know if it's something like that or not. But when you see that other view, maybe I'll stick it down in this corner maybe as well so you can see it again, the scuff. But yeah, it's really bad. So maybe it accounts for this one at 27.1, because then we go to 27.4 and things start getting a lot better. Well, no, I'm sorry, still had one over here in 27.4, so it's still a flyer there at 3.681, and then all of a sudden, boom, we get a lot better. I mean, like, really better. So we get 1.21 MOA and 1.379 MOA here. Now, how good these are? You know, you start getting a little bit of me in there probably, but still I can shoot a lot better than these groups. So, but at least it's a good trend that we now actually have a gun getting close to MOA status with this bullet and Varmint. So Varmint seems to be doing really well. Now, the really cool thing about this is, since I was using that Brifit scale and checking it with the other scale too, I'm sure I'm getting better powder weights, more consistent powder weights. But also Varmint just seems to be giving really good numbers, especially for a spherical powder. So, I mean, you can look at this one, for instance. This is a 10.2 feet per second standard deviation and 24 feet per second extreme spread. I mean, that's not bad. It's not super great related to some of the precision rifle rounds I do, but that's really good. But look at this one. 1.9 feet per second standard deviation and a 5 feet per second extreme spread. That's awesome. I mean, that's awesome in anybody's book, whether you're shooting precision, F-class, whatever, let alone in an AR. So that's good. Now, can I get some better accuracy? Maybe. And this is where I may play with barrel harmonics on changing the muzzle brake and putting a heavier, lighter one on there. Probably put a heavier one on it and see if I can change the harmonics a little bit and see if that could tighten up. It could also just need to be, I need to try other bullets as well, and we're going to as well. But the really good numbers, even on this stupid one, which really makes you think the scuffed bullet is involved in this one, I should have tracked every one of them, and I didn't do it. I marked the stupid cases, and then just got firing and firing, and it's like, oh crap, I didn't track them. So yeah, that's my mistake. But 4.5 feet per second standard deviation and 12 feet per second extreme spread. Nothing wrong with the powder, nothing wrong with the seating, neck tension, things like that. That's all really good. So chances are here we have something going on with the bullets. This one, not bad. 6.2 feet per second standard deviation and 13 feet per second extreme spread. And then the first one here of our Varmint then is 10.3 feet per second and 15, or standard deviation, and 15 feet per second extreme spread. Okay, so these are just really good numbers. Now, even the Accurate 2520, using the new scales and everything, it's pretty good. This one was a 7 feet per second standard deviation and 17 feet per second extreme spread. And so these continue on here. This one was the worst, I believe, of all of them. Yeah, 16.5 feet per second standard deviation, 41 feet per second extreme spread. So yeah, not great, but not far off a lot of factory ammo either. And then this one down here was 11.7 feet per second for standard deviation, 28 extreme spread. So not terrible, but not like this one. Holy cow, lights out, 1.9 feet per second standard deviation and 5 extreme spread. So so there's a lot going on in this end of the target. A lot of noise, I think, from reseating the barrel, first firing after it had been cleaned, etc., etc., and then different powders. Once we hit the Varmint, things started getting better and better. And we get this one flyer here and one flyer here, but then the groupings just start tightening up, and you can see them come in here pretty good and pretty well. Slight climb to it. So, it's trying to climb a little bit with the velocities, because the velocities were actually getting pretty good for a 130 grain bullet. This is at 2387 feet per second, so almost 2400. In fact, it had one at 2400 because of that extreme spread. You can see we actually had one peak out right at 2400. So we'll easily cross 2400 when we go up to 28.5. And for a 130 grain bullet, that's not bad at all. And we'll see with Varmint. For case capacity, might be able to get a little bit more in there. And can we do it safely beyond that? We'll see. We'll be very careful and check that out. But pretty good. I mean, our lowest was here, and that's 2281. The lowest of the Varmint, 2281. And then we go to 2303, 2328, 2360, so 35 feet per second jumps, kind of roughly on average for every 0.3 grains. Not quite linear, but pretty close, and hitting, and then 2387 on the average on that one. So yeah, things are a lot better. It's still not what I expect out of the rifle, and we're just trying to see how good can we get with a relatively inexpensive barrel before we switch out and go to something maybe that's really more high-end like my other rifles. But so far, I mean, getting to 1 MOA or 1 1/4 here, 1.2 and 1.3 there, yeah, that's perfectly good for hunting. No problem. This will be a great bore gun, great bore barrel for that. I want it better, and we'll see. We got a lot of other bullets. We're working our way down in weight range. Remember, we started at 140, and now we've been working 130s, and we'll move into the 120s, 110s, and 95s here in the next series. But yeah, not too bad so far. At least some encouragement now, because it's like, yeah, I was getting pretty frustrated with it before. So we're starting to hit maybe its sweet spot as we come down in the grain weights of the bullet and going up in velocity as well. So we'll continue on our study, and we'll return back. All right, so in the end, what's the verdict on our receiver truing, squaring of the face, and rebedding of the barrel and all that? I think it helped. Okay, I think we can look some more data, but I've had nothing approach this. Now, some of this for sure I think is switching to Varmint. I'm gonna give it a lot of credit because it did bring things together. But I was never able to achieve groups anywhere close to this with any other combination so far, even running like Accurate 2520 and things like that, and 8280 XBR and things with similar bullets. And so pretty good pretty good results. I think in general they're grouping a little bit better when I don't have screwed up bullets, and we're going to inspect every one of them from now on. I may even weight sort them just to make sure I screen out as much as can be. And I have about 55 of those 130s left, and so we'll shoot through those and move on to lighter weight bullets. But did it help? Yeah, I think so right now. But we'll confirm with some future testing. All right, before we go, I'm going to go ahead and display the large version of this chart on the screen so you can all see the numbers. I'll make it full screen so you can see it. Really good results. And so I thought I'd just let you see the numbers if you want to, and you take the time to read these if you want. I mentioned some of them reading them, but looking at the numbers and looking at some of the means and things like that, you start to get a really good appreciation for what Varmint has done, particularly here. Now the scales have helped on all of them, I think, without a doubt, but in Varmint, boy, it just really got exceptional. So I thought you might like to see the data. We'll display it up here for a few seconds, and then we'll see you on the next video.